See, at EFS, our global HR policy statement, it says the people's culture. So why do we say that? At EFS, when we are working in an FM environment, we are delivering the services. And the services are being delivered by the people. So we have 80% workforce is blue collar workforce. So we work with them for their upskilling, and it's mutually beneficial for us to achieving our organizational goals and their personal goals. And when you work with the workforce, like for their happiness at workplace, for the white collar workforce, we provide them all the facilities what are required in the office, but doesn't mean that we will not be taking care of our blue collar workforce.
Common things amongst the companies, but what I want to stress on is at the end we are managing people, okay? And several years back when we started, we had less than 170 staff. Today we're more than 6,500 staff across the UAE and outside of the UAE, which made us think on how we address people's issues, okay? And one of the things that we were looking at is how we employ technology to ensure that people do not waste time in getting different approvals, different documentations, and so on. And luckily, today the technology is very easy to have and implement. So from an HR perspective, we have launched our ZAM chat box that helped our staff to communicate immediately with HR and get whatever they require from them and so on.
You know that for any company, the biggest asset is their staff. And I think there was a change just recently, which is changing the weekend from Friday, Saturday, now Saturday, Sunday, which impacted all the companies. Now here, when we're looking at the white-collar staff in our office, we took a decision to adopt now a 4.5 days week rather than 5 working days. So that's one thing that the people like. I'm trying not to repeat what Singh talked about, because many things we actually share. Again, I think all the big companies share many values, but at the end of the day, the staff are the core of the business. Okay, they are the center of the business, so you need to take care of them. So for us, we did a lot of things to improve their quality of life, and the main thing was the travel time that they take to projects and come back from their job, bringing down from an hour to 10 minutes, which moved everybody to our post area, which became central to all our operations in Dubai. You need to have standards. Now, sometimes it's pushed by clients. Sometimes, you have to raise the bar internally. But at the end, you need to make people as much as possible happy so that they can perform.
All of us have that common thread of employee welfare and everything. There's nothing different per se. I think there are giants around the table, and that's what we invest in our people. Not to sound cliched, as people are assets of the FM industry, and that's always been it. If there's one big lesson that the pandemic has taught us, that's one big lesson, that they are our assets. And at ServeU, one of the key factors that we do is invest in people moving up, getting promoted. Very recently, a couple of weeks back, we had a cleaner who became an electrician. Okay, so that's true cross-functional, moves, and that's very key to us. And that's how we invest in our people. We train them, we upskill them to take on other positions as well. So that's always something that we look at from just the regular employee welfare perspective, and it's empowering them to explore what their future holds, for them not to be kind of stuck in a role that they get appointed into. From the developers, the construction contractors, etc., there has been development. Another key factor that ServeU has experienced in the last couple of years is a new model of construction and development in the Middle East of public-private partnerships, the PPP contracts. So, we've been approached by PPP consortiums to consult on facilities management for the future of the building. So there's not just progress, but there's also a certain level of advancement also when it comes to that engagement. So definitely there is progress. Yes, like what Singh was saying, there can be much more that can be achieved, but I think there is progress in the right direction as well.
It's very important for a developer to engage a facilities management consultant. Okay, so all of us here around the table, I think we are more operations. Maybe there will be an arm for consultancy within Iltizam or IFM and within EFS, because previously they used to provide consultancy years ago. I'm not sure if they still do.
We are still providing.
So again, you provide as much as you come early, you are going to reap the benefits. And I think all the bigger developers, okay, they actually engage people on their master plan, the FM design review, service charge calculation, what is the operating model that they will work on, etc. So they look at the design from operativity perspective and maintainability perspective, which is different from the guy that is gonna design a facility, design a building, design a community. He never operated and maintained, and provided services to a plan or to master plan or to a building or to a facility. So yes, the engagement is very important. Already this was a challenge 10 years ago. I think very few big developers now don't do those things because they know that this will impact the service charge, this will impact the transition management between construction and operation, and they have a solid foundation to go forward with the lifespan of that facility.
I want to expand this not just with developers, but an asset owner in general, okay? What we have realized is that we have to be a subject expert matter in our industry. As a result of this, one of the factors that has encouraged us to create IFM, and IFM we have different brands that we are operating, like ServeU is focusing on master communities, providing FM services in master communities, retail, residential, and commercial, and other sectors. But we have Inspire FM that is specialized in FM infrastructure, okay? And we have 800 Tech for special maintenance and so on. So the whole thing is to be a specialist in every segment that we can be in.
I think it should be. Can it be possible? I still feel that very few the developers, they are dealing with the facilities management company when they're designing and they're bringing them on board. But it's not happening in all over. So it is a long-awaited initiative which developer has to take. Facilities management can really, these companies can take this forward and save the cost. 70 to 80% related cost of the facilities management is for the poor construction, poor design of the construction. They build the buildings, they do not even consider how it is going to be maintained, who is going to maintain, and what are the challenges will come. They can really avoid those challenges if they appoint the facilities management company at design stage, in pre-commissioning stage, in handing over stage. So whatever we are facing now for the new project, when we are taking over any facility, the owner, the landlord, the client always expect us to fix the issues which were not addressed during the commissioning, during the design, during the installation.
Traditionally, hospitality has always looked at outsourcing soft services staff, whether it's security, cleaners, housekeepers, and so on. But recently, again, with the pandemic and the challenges it brought to the industry, hospitality has also started to outsource the engineering. We've recently engaged with some of the top brands in the UAE to outsource the engineering staff. And as a result, the client has realized that it's more effective, not just in delivering the service, but also in innovation, in technology being implemented across their projects. So we're seeing more uptake on even engineering services in addition to the soft services, like even at the expo you have the front of house being outsourced, etc. So it's not just the soft services which was traditionally outsourced. So there is more engagement from the hospitality sector as well.
With the First Resort as a name, a bit under EFS group of companies. So yes, this is the demand now because they can transfer the risk. They have the flexibilities. Whenever they need the staff, we can provide it to them, and we have the scalability to take that kind of, sometimes you have extra staff, sometimes you have to keep the staff on other contracts.
I think one key factor in here is understanding the industry requirements. And in hospitality, especially during the pandemic, they were badly hit, but at the same time, they would need to operate. So it's important to understand the critical requirements of the client and realign ourselves with these requirements, okay? At the end of the day, we're adding that value to the client to enable the client to succeed and be successful in their business. It's a win-win situation. This brings us to the point that one of the requirements is to understand how we train people. And again, I link it back to the criticality of having a training center that focuses on these things. This is like the heart for us in the business.
I think that the hospitality sector is a very important sector. We've broken into that 3 years ago, and now we have maybe more than 25 facilities that we provide services to. The most important is to understand the pain of any customer. Okay? As my colleagues mentioned, the pandemic actually hit them very hard, and maybe it accelerated. They were used to outsourcing, but if you ask any hotelier, he will tell you that I want to have my own staff, to have control on the service that is being offered, and they will give them a lot of training and develop them all the time, because at the end, if they lose a customer, they don't lose that rent of the room. They calculate that the future times that he will not come to this brand.
The total revenue.
So that's how they look at it from a hospitality perspective. But for them also, their pain is about money. So today they have high seasons, they have low seasons. So when they outsource, they have that flexibility to have a minimum number of staff, and then they ramp it up during the high season, and then they give you a notice within realistic 1 month, let's say, and then you decrease the staff, and then you can use them somewhere else. The standards in FM, with the big companies, with having big standard implemented across many big companies now, has helped to bridge the gap between their expectation and what FM companies provide. Again, I'm talking about here leading companies that understand how you need to provide high-end services in line with ISA and with big standard.
To start with, I think the RFE process itself, we have challenges with, where there are lots of incomplete information, unclear scope, and so on, which puts a lot of pressure and challenge on the FM companies to be able to give a good proposal. The other thing is that short timelines. Very, very short timelines to go and do things. Now, there are other ways to overcome these issues, but at the end, the evaluation process is something that we always look at, and we want to understand how we can work with our clients to ensure that the evaluation process is fair to everyone, and it is adding value at the end of the day to the client.
I have a very different opinion. When we are talking about the contract gaps, Mohammed Alsharaf rightly said during the process of RFP, you have the gaps there. The objectives of the procurement team from the client side is to make sure that they can get the maximum savings, value for money. They do not involve their operations team, who they are going to manage the contract, who they are going to manage the FM providers, FM service providers. And on the other side of FM side, Business development team has also the target to achieve that in this year, I had to secure this business, right? They also do not involve the operations team for the estimation. So, but at the EFS, no bid can go without operations review. We do the estimation, we go at the site, we carry out the estimation, we tell them, okay, this is what is required. So now the pricing will be done by the business development team. If we are successful, yes, the contract gaps will always remain there because operations team is not aligned with the procurement team from the client side. Their expectations are different.
The evaluation, how do you categorize people and organizations? I think that gap is yet to be kind of bridged. But otherwise, there has been a lot of change in the engagement from the clients to the FM service providers over the years. I mean, earlier it was a very disjointed process of engaging with the service provider, and that's changed to a great extent at the moment. So that's something that has definitely developed with regards to the engagement element of it. The other element of it is once the contract comes into force, you then look at the performance of the contract and how do you measure that performance. Like Peter Drucker said, you can't manage what you can't measure. Yeah, so like for us at ServeU, we've been very, very adaptive when it comes to providing the clients with data, with dashboards, whether it's conventional CAFM dashboards or integrating the conventional CAFM data into Power BI dashboards.
So you send your comments with legal comments. In fact, especially with the government entities, we see that a lot. That's it. You send 50 comments. Maybe they will entertain you for a couple, but not for the majority. Limitation of liability is an issue. So sometimes they wanted the liability to be open. For every company, there should be like MCTs, minimum contract terms. And for us in Deyaar Facilities Management, we need to have limitation on liability. There is a very short timeline between, sometimes you receive the tender till the time you return it. They are quickly, and then the client actually stays 6 months till he decides. Why didn't you spread a little bit time so that we can visit properly, check properly? The RFP, as the gentleman mentioned, is not well written. Some clients engage a consultant or their team are actually familiar with the new trends of output-driven contract, but we can see now that there is a lot of combination between input-based and output-driven. So they say it's output-driven with the minimum number of this. Alright? So you want the service provider to be creative, to come outside of the box, to come with solutions. And this happens with the output-driven contracts. So there's a lot of gaps that need to be addressed. There has been improvement. I've seen it through the years. Again, from market to market, it's different. In UAE now, it's much mature than other markets. I've worked also in Saudi Arabia, so I also have seen an improvement in Saudi Arabia in that. But again, the government contracts there, maybe now there is the move towards the output-driven contracts and going from the just being cost-driven. So there has been improvement all over the GCC, and I think that the gaps are being addressed, but not as fast as it should be.